What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Research Reality, where we review protest music, examining the lyrics to see how they contribute to this culture of resistance. And today we actually have another viewer recommendation, the artist Seb Lowe, who I think, funny enough, actually was recommended to me by at least 2, maybe 3 separate people. And I want to say on each one, it was actually a Moonwalker album review that they commented on, so I guess there might be some overlap between the Moonwalker crowd and the Seb Lowe crowd, or maybe it's just a funny coincidence. But anyways, guys, like and subscribe if you like the vibe. Check out the Patreon account if you're so inclined. And now let's check out this collection of songs from Seb Lowe, starting off with the song No One to Kill in the Sky, which is a conversation with the Emperor and sometimes a general, saying that they've done it all. They've invaded everyone that needs to be invaded. They've conquered everything that needs to be conquered, and now there's nothing left to do except maybe, I don't know, go to the moon, try to conquer Mars, perhaps. They already have a bunch of slaves at their disposal, so maybe they could make them do something, build something, or they could just be eliminated. Give them a little motivation by saying that there is an invasion. That'll do the trick. Meanwhile, the Emperor and his men are celebrating, they are getting drunk, they are eating grapes, but eventually, time will catch up to them. They will fall either because of a health-related reason, or their power will just simply wane. And of course, during their reign, they are completely oblivious to any amount of damage that they have actually caused, all of the dust and blood that they have kicked up over the years. So in the wake of this bloody legacy, what will they leave behind? Who will be left to tend to their statues, tell the stories, and most importantly, who will tend to the Empire, if the Empire even stands at all? It's an interesting concept about how history will look back on various figures, what they will be known for. Were they a savage tyrant, or something that the people actually commended? It's a really cool song. But for the second track, we have One Day to Live, which goes on to ask that very question: if you only had one day to live, how would you spend that time? This is being asked from the rich to the poor, God to his children, the master to the slave. And really very similar to the last track, it's basically a reflection of those from the top and those at the bottom, and the differences that become quite stark, really just highlighting the differences of the worlds that they inhabit. For instance, the king is rather confused as to why his people wouldn't spend their last day on earth praising him, because of course he thinks that he is worthy of such praise, but the people are like, no, you sent us to war, you repressed us, you killed us spiritually, so like, no. And for the chorus here, it says, what of this is mine to take, to get my way, one more day is not enough. And I know I say this all the time on the channel, but time is in fact our most precious commodity, or at least it is for all of the billionaires trying to cheat death. But of course it goes for us as well, especially as things continue to get worse. If you knew that you only had one day to live, you might come to the realization that there was so much more you could have done in the run-up to that day. You might have done things a little differently. You might have tried a little harder. So I guess this is your reminder to use that time while it's plentiful, assuming that it is. Because of course, one day is not enough unless you've already made the most of every day already. The third song here is pretty fun, Don't Say No to Hitler, which brings Hitler into the modern day and asks, what would that look like with the 24-hour news cycle, social media, and the internet? How would all of this be taken advantage of if Hitler was just a little less ideological and, to a significantly greater extent, incompetent? You would probably see him all over the TV making every single headline about him. You'd probably hear him on podcasts being rude to the female host. You might see him drinking a pint with the bros down at the pub where he's talking about how the woke brigade doesn't really care about the common man. Or, pointing the finger at Elon Musk here, they might read all of the criticisms about them on Wikipedia and just constantly bash it. Or when he goes on stage, he does a little salute, and then suddenly public opinion is split between the supporters and those in opposition, because that's just how polarized our media echo chambers have become. Oh, damn it. having some technical difficulties. For track 4, Little Caesar, this song looks at the childhood experience of playing with army men, how you have them fight each other in these epic battles, you might rip off their arms and legs, following whatever lore you came up with that day, versus the very real battlefield where men actually do that to one another. And the chorus highlights the fact that once the conflict starts, it's very hard to stop, which is very true for any kind of conflict, be it civil wars, just rounding up people, committing G-side. Once shit starts popping off, it's automatically 10 times harder to actually bring it to a halt. Because when you are Little Caesar and your gladiators are going at it, you might as well press on just for the love of the game. And by game, I mean the love of war and conquest, because there's great money to be had. The second verse closely follows the first, saying that the soldiers got big and the Little Caesar, that little boy himself, also grew up. And the soldiers, both plastic and real, always did what they were told, fighting this imaginary foreign invasion, either taking place in a sandbox or on a genuine battlefield. And following that same theme, back in the day, it only cost $5 to buy some army men, and then you could become a tyrant. But now in adulthood, it costs the lives of 200,000 people. And I really like what Seb did with the bridge, where he says, it's hardly a war, it's really an act of God, almost like a kid with a magnifying glass on an anthill. But war can sometimes become sanitized almost by history, by just the passing of time, where you might not think that everyday people, usually the poorest, those with the least amount of economic opportunity, were the ones who were sent to the front lines. And when they die, you might weep for the families of those who lost their lives, but then years and years later, in the textbooks, you're reading about that war, and you vow to never do that again. Meanwhile, the song goes full circle, where while people are putting on the charades of acknowledgements and memorials, somewhere there's still a boy playing at his father's feet, and he's already thinking about the plot of the next war. And the cycle repeats. This is almost my #1 recommended song from this loose collection of songs from Seb Lowe, but there might be one more that might beat it out, so let's see what the next one entails. Next we have the track I'm Hateful, I'm Horrible, I Love You. This song, like a few other songs that we've reviewed, takes the perspective of those at the top, the elites themselves, by saying, don't trust the police because they will arrest you if you're English, or really insert nationality here. Don't wave a flag of insert country here, or you will be arrested for protesting. And you can't trust the taxi driver because he doesn't speak the language. Or the teacher because they're teaching liberal orthodoxy. And as the chorus goes, those in power want you to remain scared. They want you to keep listening to them because they know what's best for you, despite them literally being a fucking parasite that is profiting off of you. They say, hey, you're looking good, you're looking angry. Despite those in power being horrible, hateful people, they love you. Your distraction is the source of their power. Your insistence on following their marching orders, on hating the people beside you, is what helps keep them in power. And no matter who you are or where you are from, the system will keep extracting from you in labor, time, attention, taxes. And a similar concept is also shown in the second verse where it says, I'm not your enemy, but I will show you an enemy, and then an enemy. That foreigner over there, he wants something from you. He wants exactly what I have given you, says the elite. They are jealous of you, and jealousy is a sin. So in the end, the taxi driver drops you off without incident, and the teacher goes on about her day. And despite all the hate circulating, despite everyone bickering with one another, muttering shit under their breath, the elites continue uninterrupted, and the extraction continues. Next we have the song A Westerner Walks Into a Bar, and the joke is that he walks into a bar and the Middle East is on the TV, and so he's talking to the bartender about the death toll, 50,000. What a tragedy, he says. It's a proper moral dilemma. And he says, well, what can we do to help? and he continuously asks the same question again and again until he is sufficiently entertained. And there's another joke about not knowing the name of a country or even where it's located until you bomb it, because that's the unspoken law of the land, is to have blood on your hands. Even more so, to be a little racist towards the refugees entering your country, taking all of your benefits despite most of them arriving from the very countries that you bombed, that your actions destabilized, and now they're looking for a better place to live, and it just happens to be your country. And there's another line about Reform, the UKKK, talking about the Reform Party headed by Nigel Farage, a far-right politician and a far-right party, pretty much MAGA for the UK. They're trying to make Britain great again by making it just a little more racist. But as long as you keep your faith in God and your faith in the rich man's bank account, which is such a huge contradiction that so many people fall for, then who really cares about the millions of people who are displaced over there as long as they don't try to come here? And the second verse deals with a lot of stuff that we're actually seeing a lot as of late, where a lot of people are relatively insulated from the very real impacts of imperial ambitions, except for maybe when it comes to gas prices or the cost of fertilizer or oil for plastics, aka the rising cost of living because of the Strait of Hormuz. But they would much rather dance the night away, having drinks, having a good time. They don't want to be bothered by the depressing news, by climate catastrophes, the wars, nuclear threats, the possible end of a civilization. Who cares, really? The final track that we will be covering today is also a very good one, Terms and Conditions. Really, it's the terms and conditions for living in the UK specifically. The terms and conditions given to you, again, by the elites. Again, it follows the concept of being told what to do and who to hate. You need to hate the Americans, the Russians, climate change, the rich, the poor, every political party in the country. Hate everyone and everything until you can't even stand yourself. We all might have encountered a person like that once or twice. There's an interesting line that says, seek pride in your nation's contribution to the war, watch films about that soldier, and then cry for what they died for. Because what was it all for, really? Was it for the politicians and the judges to be wholeheartedly corrupt? Was it for a shit education system and an overall shit domestic policy? And I love this next line. Somewhere between the crackheads and the lords, there are people who bought the lies. The people who fell for the propaganda, who were properly indoctrinated. And on that note, the song again goes on to describe the terms and conditions, how there's really only two. There's the terms and conditions for those at the top, and there's the terms and conditions for those at the bottom. Or really just everyone else. You know, those who were born without the winning lottery ticket that is a good bloodline. God, that line is so good. Because of course the wealthy elites can find the tax loopholes, they can lie more than they tell the truth, and even get away with so much worse, because when you have a shit ton of money, there is no such thing as a crime. And this song really is just so good because it continues with that same sort of dialogue saying that gaining money is the problem? No. Taking money is the problem. Greed is very much the problem. And of course, they would never frame it that way because the terms and conditions are designed to make you hate everyone and everything. But more importantly, it's meant to keep you in line so that you don't accidentally learn the truth about the system, so you don't start working with the people beside you trying to make an actual change to that system that would otherwise change the status quo, change those terms, change those conditions. Honestly, this song is also a strong contender for my #1 recommended song from the ones that we covered here. But to be honest, you really can't go wrong with any of these because all of these are fantastic tracks. And funny enough, a few days after recording this initial review, Seb Lowe actually released a new song titled People Like You. So I thought we would go ahead and add this in. Might as well, really. So as mentioned in a previous song when we were talking about the lottery ticket bloodline. This song is sort of the opposite, talking about a racist or bigoted bloodline passed down from generation to generation. And it starts off by describing man's need for religion, the need to believe in something greater than himself, only now with himself at the center. These kinds of people are essentially manufactured, created on an assembly line of sorts, be it their education, their upbringing, the pipelines that you can find on the internet. They seek to be near those in power, or they seek to become those in power. They follow the likes of Genghis Khan, warlords, the Holocaust, and yet we're always so convinced that the worst of human history is never going to happen again, despite the fact that history might not repeat one for one, but it does rhyme pretty consistently. And the chorus follows that up by examining a small child, wondering what kind of terrible acts he will be capable of once he grows up. But again, considering the people that he is destined to follow, it's really not that hard to imagine. The second verse describes the child's dad drinking every night, spewing a twisted history with his own little revisionist spin on it. And the child's there pretending like his apple juice is the same as his father's whiskey, until again, he grows up and he follows suit, following in that exact same footprint. And in the bridge, the song deals with looking at all of this, like understanding that there is a pattern to everything, and yet you might think that the outcome won't be the same as it's always been. You think that the world will change itself. You think that it'll all go away on its own. How many times exactly have we been through a similar scenario? The lessons will repeat until we actually do something to fix those greater systemic issues. And when it comes to these massive issues like inequality or systemic corruption, things of that nature, the living standards of the ordinary people being reduced. Funny enough, speaking of people from the UK, I recently watched a video on Gary's Economics where he was talking about the rise of the far right in the UK, the Reform Party with Nigel Farage, which I think I also mentioned previously in this review. But I think the best point that he made in that video, and I'll try to link it down below, yell at me in the comments if I don't, but he talks about 1984 and the 5 minutes of hate, which is very much what people do to get their base riled up. In this case, looking at the immigrants or even the opposing political party. And as Seb Lowe here has demonstrated on multiple songs, it's very easy to convince people to hate their neighbor, to hate those coming from other countries, people who don't look like you, and blame them for all of your economic issues. But of course, as Gary Economics would explain, it's the billionaires at the top funding these parties like the Reform Party. And in this age of social media where confirmation bias can be found at every swipe, and you can so easily be convinced that everything you believe is to be believed. A little redundant there, but I think that makes sense. But we do need change. We do need counter arguments for what people are putting out there. You gotta stand for a different alternative, one where everyone can meet at a vantage point, even with people you might not agree with 100% of the time, and start pushing back with your full chest with a better message, a better plan, one that is inclusive to all, because we are going to need all hands on deck if we are actually to bust back against all of these systemic problems that are plaguing each and every one of us. And on that note, I'm just going to end it there because I'm just going to go on a tangent. So this is where I cut back to the initial video. Cool, thanks, bye. So in terms of scoring, even though this is not a proper album, I still will, I guess, give it a grade. So assuming that this was an album that I was grading, I would honestly give Seb Lowe's collection here like an A. Probably like a 92%, because Seb Lowe is very on point. I really like what he does, just stylistically with his lyrics. There's a lot of storytelling involved, there's a lot of imagery, and while he was somewhat recently recommended to me, soon, very soon, he too will have a spot on this wall, which he definitely deserves. So really guys, again, thank you so much for recommending me Seb Lowe. I'm very glad you did. I love this shit. And I think his contribution to the culture of resistance is very well put. So guys, if you enjoyed this review, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Hey, like and subscribe if you want to help support more protest music, getting this kind of shit out to the masses. I don't even know why I say that. But anyways guys, again, thank you so much for watching. Stay well, stay safe, stay informed, and we will see you on the next one. Later.